Welcome to Bones to Bulk, your source of information on how to gain muscle. My name is Brian Parody and I will be your host today. I am a personal trainer, developer of the Bones to Bulk program, and you are listening to episode 001. What is up, guys and gals? So today we are talking about a very important topic. We're talking about nutrition and food and all that glorious stuff. So I'm sitting here sipping on some coffee. I've got Dwayne Johnson with me. Okay, not really, but he is printed on my coffee mug, and so that just makes me feel better. I know, judge away. All right, so let's jump into it. So, as I said in the last episode, when I first started, I didn't have a clue what I was doing when it came to fitness. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to sling some weights and I'm going to pop some muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, yeah, that didn't happen. And it took me a long time to figure out why and what I was doing wrong. And then I realized what it was. It was food. It was my nutritional intake. Until I changed that, I saw hardly any change, which led me on a very, very long journey into the world of food, into the world of macronutrients, and all that jargon that you may have heard but are kind of scratching your head on, thinking, what in the world is all this stuff? And is food that big of a deal? Well, let me tell you, it absolutely is that big of a deal. So when we think of food, often we just focus on what sounds good. We think about, oh man, I'm going to get pizza this weekend, or I can't wait to binge on some ice cream, or I just love such and such a restaurant, can't wait to go there. And, we grow up with this mindset that food is meant to satisfy our taste buds and satisfy our gut. And in reality, that is the furthest thing from the truth when it comes to the purpose of food. Food is meant to be our fuel. You wouldn't go and pour sand or sugar in your gas tank of your car and expect it to get you to work. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to start. It's going to get bogged down, and you're going to have to hire a mechanic. Well, it's the same way with our food. Often what happens is, we just feed our bodies what tastes good, and we don't think about the repercussions. And then years down the road, we are making up for it in the form of, the way our bodies look, or medical issues that arise due to our unhealthy eating patterns. I don't need to tell you that obesity and diabetes and so many other health issues are constantly on the rise. And so much a part of that is because of the way that our nutrition and dietary intake is set up. So let's clarify a few things about nutrition and why they're so important. So without getting too deep into the weeds, I want to give you just a little bit of technical background on how our bodies work and what it really means to intake macronutrients. You've probably heard that term thrown around and maybe you haven't figured out, or maybe you're like, what the crap is macronutrients? Well, here it is in a nutshell. Macronutrients are basically the three types of food sources that we have. Everything is broken down into these three categories, and they are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. That's it. Those are your three topics that every food falls into. Every single thing you eat hits one of those categories. Some can hit more than one, but everything is divided into those three groups. Now, there's a lot of hemming and hawing, and you're going to get a million different perspectives on what percentage of protein you should eat, what percent of carbohydrates you should eat. And really, yes, if you're really, really pinching every single calorie and tracking everything down to the last cent, then you need to be aware of all that. But for the basics, you want to make sure you're getting a good balance of all of them. Now, I know there's a lot of different perspectives out there. There's a carbophobia craze, as I call it, going out, and I just don't get it. So let me, again, give you a little bit of background so hopefully you can make an educated decision, because I'm not here to tell you what to do. So for starters, proteins are kind of the building blocks of our body. Our body uses them to, yes, build muscle, but they're also used for a lot of other things, including cellular communication. And no, I'm not talking about calling somebody on your cell phone. It's how your cells talk, and it's responsible for a lot of hormonal balance in your body. So proteins are important. Second off, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your fuel source. Think of them as your body's power plant. It's where your body gets its energy, converts it into our physical actions and what we do. This is why when you're lifting, carbohydrates are so important, because it's going to give you the fuel and energy you need to power through your workout. And lastly, you have fats. And not all fats are bad. Yes, a lot of fats are bad. A hamburger from your local restaurant is not a healthy fat. As tasty as it may be, it's not a healthy fat. So some of your healthier fats are things like avocado or olive oil. And our bodies need some healthy fats because fat is in our body. It actually surrounds and protects our organs. When we walk, it prevents organs from hitting our bones and jostling us. So you do need a good balance of all three. I'm not going to get too much into anything else in that regard. Just know that all of our food comes from those three sources. So when you're picking up a package of whatever it is at the grocery store and it says, this has 100 calories in it and 20 calories come from fat, that's how it's broken down. So, fat has 9 calories per gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram, and carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. So that's kind of how all that food stuff is broken down when you pick up a nutritional fact and kind of examine it. That's what you're looking at. It's the breakdown of those three things. So that all sounds well and dandy, but what does it mean for me, right? I know that's the question you're asking, and that's the question I asked when I started out because, again, I was confused as I will get out. All right, so basically here's the deal. The main thing you want to focus on when you're trying to gain muscle is how many calories are you eating a day? If you haven't already, you need to get on an app, get on a website, just Google it. They're everywhere. There's a million apps for it. There's a million websites for it. Figure out how many calories you need to be eating a day in order to put on weight. Because if you're building muscle and your muscles don't have anything to build on, in other words, there's nothing there fueling them and feeding them, guess what? They're not going to grow. That's the mistake I made when I started. I wasn't giving my body anything that it could build muscle with. Sure, I was working out and my muscles were undergoing strain and I was getting stronger, but there wasn't any physical evidence because think of it this way, if you're building Legos, I was a huge Lego nut when I was a kid, so pardon all my Lego references. I think I used one in my last episode too. But shout out to all the Lego lovers out there. So let's say you have a small pile of Legos and you want to build a massive building out of Legos. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen. You're limited to what you have, so you can only build a small house because you have a small pile of Legos. It's kind of the same way with your body. If you're not feeding it what it needs and giving it an excess of calories, it has nothing to build muscles with. So you've got to be eating the right amount of calories. Now, again, you're going to get 1,000,001 different perspectives on the ratio of what you should be eating. The only one you should really be concerned about is try to keep your fats at 25% of the total daily intake. 25% or less. Me personally, I aim for 20%. Some people I know aim for even less than that. And again, those are healthy fats. I'm not talking about, go eat the burger and get that fat. No, healthy fats. The rest of my diet is made up of carbohydrates and proteins. And yes, I love me some carbs. Again, I'm not talking about Lucky Charms and pizza, as tasty as those may be. Not talking about those. Healthy carbs, whole grain carbs, things that come from whole wheat flour, whole grains, whole wheat pasta, couscous, quinoa. These are great carb sources that our body desperately needs, especially if you are lifting, which you are because you want to gain muscle, right? So the big takeaway from this is hit your calorie count. You want to be hitting the amount of calories that's recommended for you in order to gain weight each week. Next, get your calories from a clean source and a well-balanced source. Don't eliminate food groups because that's not setting you up for success long term. One reason that I can't stand all these diets and fads going around is that it's like, okay, for 30 days you're not going to eat any carbohydrates. Okay, cool. What happens after the 30 days? A lot of times what I see is people go right back to square one where they were 30 days prior. Yeah, they may have lost 10 pounds, but guess what? They gained that 10 pounds back, or they may have hit some muscle gains, but guess what? Once they get off, those muscle gains go away and they're not able to lift as heavy because their body is not developing lifelong healthy habits. And that's what I want you to do. Lifelong healthy habits on how to build clean, lean muscle. I would love to connect with you. In the meantime, you can find me online, bonestobulk.com. If you haven't subscribed already to the podcast, please click that subscribe button. I will be forever thankful to you. Hope you have a fantastic day and kill it today. And remember, no matter what anybody has told you, no matter what obstacles have stood in your way, you've got this.